President Obama did a podcast with his former staffer, David Axelrod, and he made a bold claim that made headlines pretty much everywhere. So here's what he said. I'm confident that if I had run again and articulated it, I think I could have mobilized a majority of the American people to rally behind it. I know that in conversations that I've had with people around the country, even some people who disagreed with me, they would say the vision, the direction that you point towards is the right one. So this is President Obama saying publicly, yeah, I think I could have beaten Trump. I could have beaten Donald Trump. Now, of course, Donald Trump being the goofball that he is and being massively thin-skinned, he couldn't just sit there and let this be said. I think he went on Twitter, or maybe it wasn't Twitter. Maybe he said it in an interview or something. But he was like, no way. No, he did say it on Twitter, and he actually he said, okay, ISIS, and he listed a bunch of things. No way you beat me. No way. So, now granted, this is all speculation, and nobody knows for sure, but what really would have happened? That's the question that we're entertaining right now. If I had to guess, I would say, I think President Obama is likely right. I think he could have taken down Donald Trump. It's because Hillary Clinton was a uniquely bad candidate. Like, she was the worst. I would argue maybe the one candidate who would have lost to Donald Trump. Because she had all of the downsides of Hillary Clinton were the exact areas where Trump was strong and he could pounce. So, she was viewed as somebody who supported NAFTA and was big on outsourcing and was not really strong for the American workers. Well, Donald Trump's message was hammering NAFTA and hammering outsourcing and saying he's for the American worker. She is the establishment. He argued on the campaign trail, I'm against the establishment, and I have proof that not only is the Democratic establishment against me, but look, Jeb Bush and Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz and all these jackasses who nobody likes, they're against me too. So he had that change outsider role locked down even as a Republican. And she was the status quo, the establishment. America's already great. You say make America great again. I say America's already great. And then the 937 different scandals that Hillary has. And she's also just not likable. She's just not likable. It's hard for, even somebody who knows nothing about her policies and nothing about anything regarding her. The more you know her, the more you dislike her. The more you hear her, the more you start to cringe and go, I don't know about this. And that's been proven in every single election she's had. She starts out with a high approval rating, and then it just fucking flounders and waffles and then tanks eventually. So, man, that shows you that she was the problem. It's not that he was just such a great candidate. He did some things very well. Like I said, the tapping into that populist outrage and using xenophobia to get the Republican base excited. So he did some things well, but overall, big picture, was he a great candidate? No. And what's my evidence of that? The guy had a fucking 63% unfavorable rating at one point during the general election. On election day, he was hovering around 60% unfavorable rating. So with unfavorables like that, it's a fucking miracle he won the election. So keep all that in perspective, and now we talk about Obama. Now, Obama has his giant flaws and has his setbacks. So, for example, one thing that would have made the election a lot closer than it potentially could have been if it was Obama versus Trump is TPP. Because Obama's for TPP, the American people are against TPP, Trump hammers TPP as part of being this establishment, outsourcing mantra which destroys working families, and he's right about that, and Obama's wrong about TPP. But that's like one of the only areas where Trump would have been able to hammer Obama, where Obama, and he rarely gets credit for this, but Obama, he does know how to campaign progressive. Hillary Clinton did not campaign progressive. She campaigned centrist, corporatist establishment the entire time. And, progressives were screaming at her, stop doing that, run progressive, because that's the only way you're going to beat him. She didn't do it. Obama, look at what he did. Well, look at what he did to Mitt Romney in 2012. He ripped his face off. And he ripped his face off by hammering him over and over and over, making a progressive case. Now, when Obama gets into power, he governs centrist, corporatist establishment, and he pisses off liberals and progressives across the board. There's no doubt about that. But in terms of campaigning, no, he campaigns in a decent way. In fact, I think in 2012, he campaigned much more progressive and much better than he did in 2008. 2008, he was able to get away with being a little more centristy because you're coming off of George Bush, and John McCain was the next option for the Republicans. The American people wanted anything but a Republican. So Obama was able to get away with being more centrist. But he knows how to ratchet it up. He knows how to sound liberal, sound progressive, and say the right things in a campaign season. And he's generally a likable guy. I see it even with myself. Even when I'm hammering him for all the shitty things he did. Even when I'm saying, oh my God, this guy increased NSA spying. This is fucking crazy. Even when I'm out there saying, this guy's doing drone strikes that's killing grandmas in Pakistan. Even when I'm out there talking about the 7 different interventions or the Wall Street bailout. And I'm hammering him and I know he's wrong. He does something decent in, the next week or the next 2 weeks. And I'm right back out here like, well, he's a mixed bag. Because on top of his policies being genuinely mixed, he's just a likable dude. And, the evidence of that is he got elected president of the United States twice. And that leads to the final point. Right now, he has an approval rating that's over 55%. One poll had him at 58%, another one had him at 57%. So that is for an outgoing president who's been in office for 8 years. That's rare, man. That's rare. I mean, usually when somebody's in power for an extended period of time, here's the feeling of the American people. Fuck you. We're going to blame you for anything and everything that's happened. And partly that makes sense, too. But, if things are not going well, we're going to basically say, you got all the blame. So I hope you can take it because you're getting it and we hate you. Bush left office with a 22% approval rating. Obama has more than doubled George W. Bush's favorability rating when he left office. So the dude is generally likable. And Donald Trump, even though he was unique among the Republicans in that he was more populist and more liberal, and he bucked Republican orthodoxy more than any of the other candidates, even given that, and given Obama's massive handicap of he's for TPP and Trump is against TPP, since every other area, President Obama is way more intelligent than Donald Trump and knows how to campaign progressive and knows how to be hard-hitting when he has to be. I think that Obama would have won. And think about it. Even against Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton won the popular vote by almost 3 million votes. She won by over 2.5 million votes. That's nothing to scoff at, son. The reason why she lost is that Democratic firewall fell. And the Democratic firewall, he won by a couple tens of thousands of votes, maybe 100,000 votes or something like that in that Democratic firewall. So think about that. All you needed was a Democrat who can hang on in those Democratic firewall states. And I think Obama would have hung on in those Democratic firewall states. I do think so. Again, it took a uniquely bad candidate for the Democratic firewall to fall. Because the whole idea behind those areas is they are former factory towns that are massively depressed. And they blame, the Clintons for NAFTA and their union places. And Obama would have been able to campaign in a more progressive way, and he could have bragged about certain things that Hillary Clinton's got nothing to brag about. So, for example, Obama recently changed the overtime rules, made it so that, if you make $47,000 a year or less, you get overtime pay by law. It used to be $23,000 a year or less. Now it's $47,000. That's helping a lot of fucking people. A lot of people. And he's sprinkled in other, pro-worker things here and there. He could go out on the campaign trail, hammer away on that, and then the people in the Democratic firewall, which nobody expected to fall, they would go, oh, yeah, no, the Democrats are obviously better for lower-income workers, right? Obama's out there talking about raising the minimum wage. Donald Trump ain't talking about raising the minimum wage. Obama's got the backing of all the unions. Donald Trump doesn't have the backing of the unions. So, again, you just needed a couple tens of thousands or 100,000 or whatever it was that Trump won by, that made the Democratic firewall fall. If that had gone to the Democrat, there would have been a popular vote win by the Democrat, of course, as even happened with Hillary Clinton, and an electoral college win. So I do think President Obama would have won. But it's interesting. It's an interesting thing to think about because obviously the one wild card is the anti-establishment angle, because if Trump would keep playing the anti-establishment angle, anti-establishment, and TPP angle, would Obama's obvious wealth of knowledge in other areas and better positions in other areas and better debating skills, and would everything else where Obama beats Trump be enough to override him on the anti-establishment and TPP issue? I say yes. And again, I say yes because I think the numbers are relatively clear that he had almost a 60% unfavorability rating, Trump, and Obama has a 58% approval rating, favorability rating. So that's such a wide gap that it's like, oh man, I don't see how Trump could have pulled it off if it was against Obama. So again, this is a segment that's basically speculation, but I thought it was an interesting conversation to have. But even the fact that it's potentially close, and even the fact that there's a question, like that we're having this conversation, does show you that the Democrats need to reevaluate, and they're not doing it. In fact, they're doing the exact opposite. What they need to do is understand that this establishment centrist corporatism is not enough, as Bernie Sanders famously said to Hillary Clinton. It's not enough. You're not going to get the progressives riled up. You can't pull the wool over their eyes for that much longer. I mean, it was, again, a uniquely bad candidate in Hillary Clinton that made, progressives and liberals go, fuck off. But you want to really get them excited. You want to really get the millennial vote. You want to really get the independent vote. You want to really start winning elections, and not just the presidential race, but also House Representatives, Senate, state legislatures. You got to run progressives. You have to do it. You have to be unapologetic about it, and you have to stop taking the corporate cash. Until you do that, there's going to be a question. There's going to continue to be a question as to whether Trump wing Republicans can beat you.